All right, welcome to this video. So welcome if you haven't seen these videos before, welcome back if you have. My intention is benevolence for all in the highest levels of love, light, and expansion in oneness. I am going to go into a little bit of flow right now. I just did two videos. One was talking about the star seed light body that we are forming. The other one was talking about the dark night of the soul, which I relabeled the fire fiasco because for a lot of reasons. I don't know that I'm going to keep that video. I was kind of fired up when I did it. We'll see. I'll probably post it and then I'll decide from there. If you guys have ever seen the video or the show The Office, there's a scene where Michael Scott and Pam, his secretary, like she'll send a call through to him and he'll answer the phone and he'll be like, "What's up?" or "Yo," or make some stupid joke, and then she'll still be on the line going, "I haven't sent the call through yet," and then he'll go, "Hello, this is Michael Scott," and then she says, "I do that sometimes." It gives him an opportunity to work it out before he then answers the phone anymore. That's what I do sometimes with these videos. This is a really long, drawn out description. Anyways, I'm going to go into a little bit of flow, and we're going to see what comes through. And I did just talk briefly about that, the energies coming through, as far as a lot of us are getting a fire lit up in our lives to help us alchemize and transition through difficult times, to help us to collapse old timelines that are no longer something we wish to carry through with us into the new creation, into the new way of being. And I didn't say that in the last video, but this is essentially, in a nutshell, what I was trying to say. So we are often going through these changes because they are, yeah, this is my second version. I'm deciding that right now that this is what I'm going to be posting. Essentially, we are going through changes, and these changes can be catastrophic in our life. And catastrophic in essence means big changes. It doesn't mean the end, although it can refer to the end of something and the beginning of something new. I was referring to and inviting us to essentially, rather than calling things when we are going through complete chaos in our lives, the dark night of the soul, and that is what it feels like, essentially, I invite us to call it the fire fiasco. Because when we think of the dark night of the soul, meaning we're going through utter chaos in our lives and we just feel like we've been stripped down to nothing and we're completely just, those are oftentimes when we get the biggest activations, ahas, and it's usually the darkest before the dawn. And how often have we sat down, if you ever experienced where you just cry, you have that really good cry and you just bawl your eyes out, and when you're done you just feel lighter, tired, and cleansed a little bit, and in a little bit maybe clearer. And essentially that's what this does. And I too have gone through some major life changes and major dark times. And essentially the reason I wrote down fiesta is because I see this as like those little maracas or whatever they're called that shakes things up. And I associate those with party, fiesta. So while we're going through these things, it doesn't feel like that at all. But then at the end, it's after having that good cry. It's like, wow, all right. And then later down the road, we might feel the desire to celebrate. So I wanted to share that fire and fiasco. The reason I'm calling it this is, and I'm doing this as a sharing because of quite a few sessions I've had where light workers are going through their fire fiasco, right? And their dark night of the soul, whatever you want to call it. They're going through a major life transition. And while it may not be everything in chaos, it's enough to bring up a lot, to essentially, and it comes in stages, what I see and what I'm finding. And this isn't just in session work, it is obviously through friendships and conversations. and so on and so forth. So what happens is we have this fire fiasco. To me, fiasco comes from the word bottle and flask. And so if we think of it, it's a holding. It's like it's holding on to something. And if you think of the term bottleneck, right, everything is bottled up and it's like we can't move, or there's so much going on that we can't focus. We don't know where we are. We don't know who we are. We don't know where we're going. And we certainly aren't even able to look back at where we've been when we're in this fiery fiasco because the smoke is too thick. The flames are too hot. But on the flip side of it, if you light up a bottle hot enough, it'll explode, or it'll move the ingredients through the bottleneck out the top. Then our confetti comes out and we can fiesta. I'm playing with words here because essentially it also reminded me of iron fist. We're tough, right? And when we melt the metal, we're alchemizing. So it's creating a fire in our lives that essentially allows us to alchemize, to melt. And when I was going through this in my life, and I've had a few of these dark nights of the soul, aka fire fiascos, or now fiery fiestas, FNF. It was uncomfortable, painful. It was difficult to breathe at times. It was emotional, very physical, very non-physical, very mental, very non-mental. So all of these things can create those experiences when you're going through it, when you're in it, right? But essentially it was, for me, I would go through a period of bottleneck, fire, discomfort, melting, that good cry, reassessing, rebirth. Then fire built up. I don't know what to do, where to go, what's going on. Melting, after that explosion, movement, alchemy, transition, fire, melting, acceptance, humbleness, rebirth. I'm using that as an example because it's stages, really. And you could also think of it as a pot of soup. It gets so hot, you're in this pot, in this bottle, this heating up, this bottle, and it just feels like uncomfortable. Then later on, you look back on it, I looked back on it and go, whoo, I'm so glad I'm not in that bottle anymore. I'm so glad I'm not in that timeline anymore. I'm so glad that I'm not experiencing that in my life right now. And I'm so glad that I've already been there, done that. And now from a broader perspective, I can look back on these times in my life and see them from a fiesta point of view, for the most part. So what does this include, this fiery fiasco, this chaotic period in our lives? Well, it could be divorce, breakups, breakup or falling apart of friendships, especially if you've had lifelong friends and you no longer fit into that suit, right? Soup. Passing on of a loved one, whether it be friend or family or someone you know. Sickness, yourself or someone else that you know. Severe ascension symptoms, which the two can be the same, one and the same. Loss of home through disaster. I've had a connection recently with a beautiful starseed who her whole home flooded. She's displaced. She's Orphan Annie. She's moving from, one place to another. It could be moving from an old home into someplace else, not knowing where you're going to go. It could be moving across the state or leaving the country. It could be fire, or it could be mold in the home that caused sickness, so on and so forth. Job change, fired, laid off, or can't do it anymore. Such a different place in your life that this no longer in any way are you able to work in a toxic environment. And then I wrote down body changes in addition to sickness, because it could be, going through, let's say, hormones, the change, menopause. It could be puberty. It could be going through some major changes because of body sicknesses. It could be just a stage of life where the body is going through some changes. And this can create hormonal imbalances in men or women, testosterone, estrogen. It can create cortisol issues in the body, which can also induce hormonal changes, and that's a whole other video. So some of us, when we go through these fire fiasco, dark night of the soul, go through all of this, or like 5 of these things. You know, we are going through a job change, we're completely sick, we're really not getting along with our spouse, our children are angry with us, or they're going through their own issues, or I don't have children, so that's not where I'm going with that, but we'll say siblings, you know, you're going through a really bad family dynamic while all of this is going on. Or perhaps you have children and you're helping take care of grandchildren. And not only are you going through these changes, but now they're going, so you see where I'm going with this. But essentially what happens is, this is part of life from my perspective, or has been part of our life. And I see it as us collapsing old timelines, or going through certain experiences that are essentially triggering other events and other timelines to unfold. Or fulfilling certain agreements that we may have made in previous lifetimes, or in that note, fulfilling certain agreements because we knew that it would create a certain life experience for us that we desire to experience in this lifetime. So any of those can fit that shoe, and all of them are correct, but follow your own belief. I'm going to cancel that. Follow your own guidance system, what resonates with you. Obviously, when we're going through these, the most important interaction that we can have is with ourselves. The most important dynamic that we can fall back into is ourselves, support ourselves. Because even though many of us starseeds, while we're going through this, go, how can we come here to fulfill our mission? How can we be of service to others if I can't even see through the smoke, through the flames that I am cooking in right now, right? That I am, my life is an utter disaster. How do I know what I want to do with the rest of my life when I can't even fill in the blanks? It is all temporary. If this has been going on for the last 10 years, you might want to reassess the situation a little bit. That might be a whole other video topic. As we go through these experiences, it's difficult to stay in a place of love, of course. And I want to back up just for a moment and share that you might be experiencing all of these, or just one of these that then brings on other experiences. So if you're going through a divorce, for example, or a major breakup with a partner that you've been with for many years, you had friends that were created out of that partnership who may or may not agree with your decision, or your spouse's or ex-partner's decision. And they may decide to not have anything to do with you. You might feel that you are not worthy. You might feel regretful. You might feel angry. You might feel sad, or all of the above, right? You might feel blocked completely. And in all of this, we are ascending, right? Or we are expanding, or we are growing, or we are evolving, wherever you want to go. And so now your body is responding to all of these emotional charges, so to speak. And so things start to break down in the body, upset stomach, headaches, right? Not able to sleep, not able to eat, eating too much, drinking too much, changing our habit patterns that maybe do not fit because of a result of how we're responding to the fire in our life. I go on and on because this all ties in with ascension symptoms. So what I'm seeing is, let me back up. That can then trigger the ascension symptoms in the body to become worse or stronger. Body changes to become worse or stronger. If we're in a constant state of duress, stress, our cortisol goes up. If we're not in our heart and we're not in a place of gratitude and appreciation for what we do have, our cortisol goes up. That changes our thyroid, right? It blocks our connection to our heart, which then is a portal into our higher network. Perhaps we don't feel connected to Earth. So it throws everything off, obviously. So the important thing to remember when you are experiencing this, or if you have been experiencing this, is to go back into yourself, not like shut down and wilt away, or maybe you're in that stage where you just need to get away from everybody and everything so that you can rediscover yourself. And that's okay too. But meaning, do what you are guided to do that feels good for you in the most appropriate of ways. Meaning, I'm going to share, when we're going through this, oftentimes what peeks through as a little flower or seed of hope, seed of light, are our gifts. Because as this alchemy happens and as we shift and change, we are then essentially brought in more alignment with more of what we are. We will be shown strongly what we are not. So oftentimes fear can come up. And then as we go through these ascension symptoms, it's hard for us to be in a place of acceptance. We go into more fear. Oh no, something's wrong with me on top of everything else. So what I'm inviting everybody to do, and this is, I'm in flow right now, you guys, hence my spins, is do what you feel will bring the slightest amount of joy or bliss. If you're not there yet, go do a beach cleanup. Go walk on the beach. Get out in nature. That's the first step, because it pulls you out of the fire just for a moment so that you can find a little bit of serenity. The message that came through for me when I was working with a beautiful starseed the other day in session who is going through this was, do whatever you can to find serenity, even if it's only for a minute. So we came up with some very good solutions or helpful ways for her to tap into it based on her own bliss. Everybody's got their own thing. It might be hanging out with your children. It might not be hanging out with your children, depending on where you're at in your relationship and the ages and all of that. It might be going and helping your elderly neighbor who doesn't have any friends or family to assist them, bringing them cupcakes. It might just be cooking and making cupcakes. It might be going for getting out in nature, doing something to kind of pull you out of that chaos, even if it's only for a half hour. Some people are guided. I left all this writing up because in my last video I talked about the starseed community and all of the beautiful talented things that they're bringing through. It might be that you buy a sound bowl or a tuning fork and you just bang that tuning fork and it helps you feel good. It might be listening to music that makes you feel inspirational while you're cleaning the house. It might be listening to a motivational speaker who makes you feel good. Finding those little moments are key in transitioning through this. When I was going through my own fiery, what am I calling it again? Fiasco. Thank you. When I was in my bottleneck and I was being fired up and I just couldn't figure it out, I would listen to binaural beats every night. I listened to other light workers and channelers every night, every day, every morning. I went outside as often as I could barefoot. I would hug a tree. I would visit my neighbor who's 92 and just say hello. I would cook something that was full of color. every little thing that I could do to pull me out of what I was experiencing was key for me working through that and integrating it. Now, what that does is, because we have oftentimes an inkling of what our gifts are, and I'm going to touch briefly on that. Sometimes we don't know what they are. We're not at that stage yet, and that's okay. Sometimes our gift is just holding space for our family, holding space for the earth, holding space for our loved ones. And most likely, and that's a whole other video. I should have touched briefly on that in my light worker video, last one, but doesn't matter. But what I found from my own personal experience and what I'm seeing when I have conversations with other starseeds and light workers who are aware that they are here to be of service to earth, to one another, to the collective in the most loving of ways. That question comes up, how can I be of service? I know I'm here to do something. What am I supposed to do? And sometimes I get very direct answers, and sometimes I don't. And there's a reason. And I'm going to come on to that, touch on that briefly. The biggest answer that I always get, that I always know, is we are here to hold space. We do not have to do anything. And I say that with love. Some people might go, what do you mean? To clarify, by us holding love for ourselves in a coherent, meaning a vibrational match of love, it essentially makes the shift in others around us. The plants feel it, the earth feels it, our loved ones feel it, everybody we come into contact with feels it. That's enough. We came here to do that, to create from that space, from one perspective. There's a lot of perspectives, okay? Then there's those other starseeds that go, no, 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 I came here with a mission. I am here, I don't know what it's for. That's going to be a different video. This is more in reference to what happens is sometimes, or maybe not, I'll include that a little bit. When we go through this, our sprouts appear. They can appear in dreams that we're having. They can appear in synchronicities that we're having. Our gifts can appear through what we're guided to explore. If we are being guided to move, then follow that guidance, because perhaps our gift is the ability to teach dance, to teach yoga, to become a personal trainer, to become a whatever, Tai Chi instructor. I'm filling in the blanks. Perhaps our gift is just connecting with people and making them feel better. Volunteering at an elderly facility. Volunteering at an orphanage. A center for abused children. Bringing your light to the table. That might be all that it takes for you to shift your frequency into where you're guided to go. Now what happens is, then that ignites within you the expansiveness, the DNA, whatever you might want to call it, the upgrade. Because that vibration has shifted, and now you are more aware of what makes you feel good, because you know what doesn't make you feel good, right? The other message that's coming through is, as all of this is going on, it's difficult to trust ourselves. It's difficult to trust others. And so having trust in the synchronicities is really important. Having trust that things are lining up to help to collapse these old timelines that no longer served us. For if we would not have experienced, let's say, for example, the breakup, the job loss, we may not have ever considered that we no longer hold attraction for this particular type of person. Or we found a resiliency within ourselves that we never tapped into before, that now has led us to become a counselor. I'm using these all as examples. This is all a trail. If we would have stayed in that job, and some of you guys know this, and it's redundant, but I'm just building a picture because I mentioned blueprint. We went to this job and we learned X, Y, Z. Now that was built for the third dimensional. We're upgrading. Now we're taking this ability to this job. And in this job, we've now come into contact with these people, these circumstances, okay, interactions that are firing up another branch of our blueprint, of our path, that then fires up our blueprints inside, but vice versa, okay? So you can kind of see where I'm going with that. Through these experiences at this job, these are our experiences, and through connecting with these people, we then made friendships, realizations, we'll call them ahas, that then this person that we meet leads us to another place of work or education. Perhaps you're a massage therapist and you go to cranial sacral workshop, you meet someone who says we really could use help with veterans, and you go over to help with veterans who need care and love. Or you become a cranial sacral therapist and begin to work with children. Whereas before, if you've never gone to that class or you've never had that conversation with that person who worked with children, you never would have had that thought. It's all connected. It's all synchronistic. Had you have not gone through that breakup, go backwards, they're asking me to share my story. So I had a job that I really did not like. I was a bartender. It's a really good way to learn about people. I was young, right? Met one of my best friends because of that job that I no longer have any desire to perpetuate. Had I have not done it, I never would have met my best friend, one of my best friends. When I was younger, we moved. I never would have met my childhood best friends had we have not moved locations, which was very difficult for me after my parents went through a divorce, which is a whole other ball of wax, right? Had I have not gone through cranial sacral therapy, I would not be sitting here talking with you right now. Had I have not broken up with, gone through a breakup with one of my ex-boyfriends, I never would have met one of my very close, one of my very dear best friends. I feel that we were purposely meant to meet through him. Isn't that crazy? I love it. It's all connected. The time it didn't feel great, felt like this. It was heartbreaking at the time. I'm so grateful that it happened. I'm in Fiasco over it. I never would have met my husband had that breakup not have happened. I wouldn't be living where I live today had I have not gone through that breakup, had I have not met that best friend, and had I have not gone to the places that I went to because of that breakup, therefore interacting in a place where I met my husband. So everything is connected. Had I have not met my husband, I may not have become the person that I am today through the fiery growth that we've had with one another, the connection that we've made with one another. I share this because I'm just trying to paint a picture, and I could go on and on about all of these. I too lost loved ones within 6 months of each other to cancer. I learned a lot. I connect with my loved ones still through dream time and through prayer, meditation. Through them going through what they went through and the way that they went through it, it led me in a different direction. That had they have not shared that experience with me, I may have not gone in. I could go on and on. I'm not gonna, I'll save that for another time. But I just wanted to share this with you because if all beings are experiencing their own trial by fire, fiasco at different times. And we as a support group, it's very important for us to go within and to get back into the heart, however we can. It doesn't mean that we're going to love our circumstances or we're going to love who we are right now, but we can find gratitude for our children. We can find gratitude for our spouse. We can find gratitude for the fruit that is on my counter that I'm about to eat. We can find gratitude for the trees in our backyard, for the ocean, sand. Those little moments are what is key in us expanding. And I wanted to touch briefly on the talents, so I'm going to end this video. So when we go through these, oftentimes, I went back to the yoga and the movement. Had I have not gone through what I went through, when I went through these things, I had my severe ascension symptoms, became very sick. During that time, I had all kinds of activations. I was having dreams that were coming true. I was channeling. I was seeing past versions of myself or parallel timelines. I was having visitors. I can go on and on. That slowed way down on that regard. But when I say fire, that was happening all at once. I went from 0 to 50 in a matter of 6 months. For those of you out there who might be experiencing some of these things, that all essentially, again, the more we can be in coherence and less we can be in fear about it, the easier it will be. So oftentimes we are going through our discovery of our gifts, of what we bring to the table while we are going through these things. So obviously, sometimes we go, oh, great. Thanks a lot, universe. I didn't know what my gift was. Now I think I might be psychic. And in the meantime, I'm seeing some weird stuff. Yeah, just sometimes that's just the way it works. And and that's what our support network I'm hearing a lot right now. Our connections are all about. So while I was going through that, I brought up the fact that I did binaural beats and I had sessions. I had a session with Daniel Scranton and I had a lot of cranial sacral done. I did whatever I could that I was drawn to, because guess what? That helped unearth my talents hidden within that I had put away, right? And yours are coming out too. They come through oftentimes when we're in this utter chaos. So nourishing yourself means you're nourishing your gifts that you have to share with others, or perhaps that you just have and you maybe don't choose to share them with others, and that's okay. By you holding that vibration of acceptance and serenity as much as possible in the midst of all this chaos, you help bring your gift of anchoring those energies and frequencies to others. And you can set your intention even to do that as well. So I just wanted to share that brief little sharing of what's been happening in general, what I've been seeing across the board, and a little bit about my own experience, so that maybe for those of you out there who have somebody that you know of that's going through this, or you're going through it, we're all in this together. And perhaps we are just here to hold space for others that are going through some of these things, to offer a hug, to make them cupcakes, or vegan gluten-free cupcakes if that's their flavor, whatever it might be, to assist those that are in need. So beautiful, beautiful light workers, thank you so much for tuning in. In love and light. Namaste.